y'all? What's up? At this point, you know what it is. 12 Myths of Christmas, right? In part 5, we're just going to show you a few things that you could just simply look up in Google and be able to see what's right or wrong about them. So here we go. Number 1, Yashvai couldn't have been born on December 25th. So if we're dealing with Yashvai when he was born, it's impossible for him to be born on December 25th, which means that the holiday is not having to do with the birth of Christ. Pretty simple on that one. Next one up. The Christmas tree has never been really part of the Christmas holiday until recent times. What we call the Christmas tree now was actually part of pagan celebration, either winter solstice or things having to do more so with Norse religiosity or pagan religions, where basically around the time of December 25th, it wasn't even December 25th, but a few days before, the sun basically was supposed to be at its lowest. And so to make sure that they appeased the evil god that was coming out, they would make sure that they brought the tree in the house, right? When they brought the tree into the house, the tree was supposed to represent life. But however, they had to make sure the tree got out because as soon as the tree began to die, that meant that they now had invited death into the house, which is why people don't like to have Christmas trees in their house. But Christmas trees had nothing to do with Christ. Trees have nothing to do with the birth of Christ, unless you want to get into speaking some more on the crucifixion, right? But that would not be a tree. That would be some trees that are carved up and somebody would be on. And that's obviously something that we don't make part of the Christmas holiday. Well, some people in the Philippines and other places like that do crucifixions, but we wouldn't say that that's part of the Christmas holiday, whether we believe in Christmas or not. Next one. People want you and I to believe that Christmas is the most important holiday of Christianity, right? Those who are Christian, Christmas is what everything's about. And even though I don't celebrate Easter, I celebrate, because that's about Ishtar. I celebrate Passover. At the end of the day, we know that Easter, right, is where everybody comes to. Even like people don't even go to their Christ Mass or go to their churches when their churches have, a celebration on that day where they want people to show up to their churches. But people will make sure that they show up on Easter Sunday, won't they? The one time a year just to check in, and then they leave out. So Christmas isn't even what people try to make it to be in their own religion. Christmas is whatever you want it to be, really. Next one up. Is there a war on Christmas? The war on Christmas, if there is one, it started by the Puritans, or at least what people call Puritans, because there's no such thing as Puritans. But, nevertheless, who people would call Puritans, those are the ones who started the war on Christmas. And when they started the war on Christmas, it was because they felt it was ridiculous, for people to switch places and for priests to end up being prostitutes and all types of stuff that was happening, and people to beat up people if they didn't give them money during Christmas and things of that nature. So they outlawed it. So if anybody had a war on Christmas, it's the people that came from Europe, saw how ridiculous the holy day was supposed to be, especially if it was supposed to be about Christ, and they outlawed it. Next one up. When people say it's evil to say Merry Xmas instead of Merry Christmas, this goes again once with this whole thing of there's a war on Christmas. Why is this pretty easy for us to see? It's fallible and we don't need to worry about it. It's pretty easy to see this simply because of the fact that if we're being honest about it, people don't care about Christ in it anyways. They X him out in everything that they do. They spend more money on buying things, or they spend more time on buying things, and they don't really study to even see if what they're talking about is true. That's why people think the wise men showed up when he was born, right? Because people don't go through the process of actually seeing if what is said about the holy day is in fact true. Next one up. When we talk about even Christ, the story centers around when he was born. Was Christ even born in the year 0? We don't really know. We know it was close to somewhere around there, but we don't really know. So when people argue and say all this stuff about you're attacking Christmas and you're saying all these bad things and you're not being virtuous, you're not representing the holy day well and all this stuff, at the end of the day, when we talk about we're in the year of our Lord, this, that, whatever, that's some Gregorian, Julian, judo, if you will, that was presented. It has nothing to do with the birth of Christ. We don't even know if Christ was actually born on that year. Now, that's something that people don't really think about because, once again, they X Christ out, like we talked about with Xmas. A lot of people don't even care about that part of it. The reality, though, is that the calendar has a lot to do with it. And we should probably start studying the clues in the Bible that actually point to when, in fact, he would have been born, since it tells you about when families would have had to be in certain positions. And therefore, we can tell if these families were in certain positions during the year. You can just look to see when Christ was born. And the we three kings part. So people will argue these weren't kings in the first place. We don't know if they were kings, but they were definitely important. Some of them probably were rulers. These were wise men, but wise men can actually translate to king. And these were kings that came from the east. So these were kings that were coming from somewhere else to make sure that they were able to give Yah glory and give the son of Yah glory, right? And there are some estimates that say that this might not have even been three. This could have been hundreds of kings, right? So the whole story of there were only three kings that came, and the part of the story that tells us that these three kings were there when he was born, which is shown in a lot of nativity scenes, is extremely wrong. We need to make sure that we put this in proper perspective, and we give respect to the word of Yah and keep it whole the way that it's supposed to be. So when people are trying to get you and I to believe in these we three kings, we need to get that out of our mindset and realize that that's something that's completely fallible. At the end of the day, it's something where there's some truth to where there were these kings or magi. However, to say that there were only three of them, and to say that they showed up when he was born, and to deny that they actually found him when he was in Kemet, which is a huge part of the story for us to recognize who Christ was and even what he looked like. For us to deny those parts of the story and to act like they didn't happen are definitely things that are of no value to the kingdom. So hopefully you learned a little something, and that's going through the 5 myths of Christmas, so to speak, our play on words of the 5 myths, the 12 myths of Christmas, our play on words instead of the 12 days of Christmas. This is just something, once again, not to say somebody's going to hell or not. I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in. This is just to explain why we believe what we believe, why we do these things, and why we teach these things. So prayerfully, you guys got something out of this. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you, even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet. We appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, aka the Shadow Ben, one pastor servant to Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember as always that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Peace.
Hey y'all, come along like hey y'all to Yahshua.